Hello everybody, it's your resident Frenchman here. Back in December 2023, there was a big FGO census conducted by Klidge, the mythical goat man. It was divided into three parts. The first part was to vote for the best girl of each class, the second part was the same for the boys, and the last part was questions about the game. One of those questions was, if you could add one feature to the game, what would it be? I have answered New Game Plus for both events and main story. It's something I still want to this day, but after some time and dropping a lot of gacha games, I have realized how empty the game feels and I would like to see more things added than just a New Game Plus. So I got to work and wrote down some ideas and how I visualize it. Then I have thought about revisiting my census answer, talking about it in detail, and also to do the same thing with the other things I had in mind. But before I do that, I'd like to thank Klidge. He took the initiative to cook this census and he published all the answers online. He also gave permissions to people to talk about it as long as nothing is altered and he's credited for it. So, not only I have the green light and I'm able to talk about my ideas, but I was also able to see if it resonates with the community and see some features either I forgot or found very interesting. Obviously, I will do my part of the job and I will link the original tweet and all his socials in the description. As usual, there will be timestamps so you can skip around and see what I want for the game. As I've said, my answer was New Game Plus for main story and events. So I will focus on the main story part first and then move on to the events, since it's two different things. For starters, we can all agree FGO's main story is really great. There is a lot of tangible proof of it, like Solomon and Camelot wouldn't be movies if the story was bad, Babylonia wouldn't be an anime for the exact same reason, and also, ever since its release, Lost Belt 6 has been beloved by the entire community, as I have seen a lot of fanarts of every single Lost Belt 6 characters for 2 years now. As for how I see it added to the game, then you just have to go under Chaldea Gate. You can call it Reminiscence Quest right under Advancement Quest, where you can only play the main story as long as you want, but you don't get any rewards just to balance everything out. As for the events, it was way before I learned about the no rerun decision made by Lesengle, but my initial idea didn't change at all. I wanted this because I know a lot of players couldn't play past events and it would just let them experience it, get more background about welfare servants, so it's more, there is a deeper connection between the welfare and the player. Also, for some reasons, there is some events that are connected to the main story but aren't really playable, which is a bit weird, but we're used to it at this point. Now that I'm aware of the no rerun decision, I feel like this New Game Plus for event is even more important because first, they don't have to do reruns anymore. They just let players buy them for 1 to 5 rare Prism and play it. And 2, on a bigger scale, it will be the talk of the week among gacha players specifically, because it would be the first gacha, at least to my knowledge, to transition from a rerun strategy to all events available from start. And then, once you buy all those events, the main interlude will change, so it will group together all the similar events, like all the Christmas event will have a dedicated sub-menu, same for Halloween, but more unique events like Onigashima or Saber Wars could hang out with Seraph and the others. This was the thought process I had in mind behind my New Game Plus answer, but as I've mentioned, I had other ideas. We currently have one thing on a weekly basis, and it's the weekly master missions. It's not really that bad, it changes from time to time when there's an event available for everyone, but I feel like they could do more. So how about players could have weekly or even monthly content in FGO solely by repurposing events beloved by the community? I know I'm not going to get some footage of that game, but I used to play Fire Emblem Heroes and it had a ton of content to do. There was Legendary Hero Battle, Grand Hero Battle, and I think it was Grand Conquest, where you have to build your own roster with a lot of your characters and your friend's character. In this mode you have to take over some forts with your teams and defeat the enemy. I might be wrong about the name since I've dropped it a long time ago, but yeah, it was pretty fun actually. So how about they draw inspiration from it and allow players to have weekly boss for those who want to test their abilities, and a permanent grail front for those who aren't really into bosses at all. They could even include it in weekly master mission, so instead of having, let's say, defeat 15 enemies with Earth attribute, you just have participate in the weekly grail front one time or defeat the weekly boss. As to where to find it, you just put it under daily missions and you call it weekly mission, where everything can be found there. As for the monthly content, I have thought about repurposing tower events. It could be added right under the theoretical weekly mission, you paint it as monthly mission or at least something like that, and in this mode you will have to climb a 300 floor tower, and every floor will force you to build a team under certain conditions. For example, clear this floor with a 3-star rarity team or something similar. Obviously, every 10 floor will have bosses. Once you defeat them, you get at least some rewards. It could be material class, another material, and pure prism. For example, once you defeat the 10th floor boss, you get a 3 blue saber gem, 3 void's dust, and 1 pure prism. But at the 270th floor, you get 10 gold caster gems, 10 hearts, and 10 pure prism. I believe New Game Plus, weekly and monthly content is enough to deal with the lackluster endgame. But there is other things not really content related I'd like to see added to the game. One of them would be more rank ups for bronze and silver servants, and maybe some reworks as well. The reason is simply because they are the staple of every new FGO account due to the team cost, and most of them are year 1 servants, so their buffs aren't really up to modern FGO standard. If you help them just a little bit it would be enough, but there is some cases where servants are beyond saving even with 9 rank ups. They should be reworked to be less janky and more usable. Speaking of servants, out of all the boys, there is only one servant with a proper summer ult, Canis. You can check his profile or wiki, it's a dude and he cannot be buffed by Blackbeard, so it does count. There is some people that might think it's a unique case since he has tits, or maybe people are worried about male designs being way redundant. The thing is, they managed to do something really cool summer related with Achilles' diving suit. And I highly doubt all the FGO artists are unable to come up with crazy summer designs for males. But regardless of the design concern, I think as long as the character is popular, it will do well. I know there is some people out there that would sell their kidneys, their friends and family just to get 27 copies of Gilgamesh wearing a Speedo. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't really know how to transition from Gilgamesh wearing a Speedo to my other point, but the other thing I have thought about was Combat Simulator. In Valentine's Day and interludes, it feels like all the servants has access to it, but we cannot go in there as the master, which is weird. Like, it would make total sense lore-wise as the last master of humanity, trying to be prepared for most of the situation that could happen, and as a gameplay feature, it would be a banger. It will be in the menu down there named Simulator, and it would lead to the command room where there is Da Vinci waiting for us. There will be 5 different buttons: normal, 19 plus, 90 plus plus, and free battle. The last one will be covered a bit later. So you choose one of those presets, you build your team, and you go to battle. Once you're on the battlefield, you press the battle menu button, and then it will allow you to tweak every single parameter. It would be very useful for everyone to test their servants' limits or to be more familiar with certain interactions, because I feel like FGO players are the gacha game equivalent of the lab monsters in fighting game. Most of them will spend thousands of hours learning every single possible situation and have an optimized specific answer to it. The last button of the combat simulator would be tutorial mode, because the current one we have is outdated and we cannot replay through it. It only teaches you 3 things: how the chain works, what's the card effect, and also how to NP. But the game has way more stuff to learn, so it would be cool to have everything in the game and not having everything outside the game. It will be great because you will have a lot of training dummies, and Master Da Vinci will explain how the buff effect works, and then you can apply it by hitting the dummy. Okay, so the better tutorial concludes all the gameplay features I wanted to see added to the game, but there is some quality of life changes I'd love to see. At launch, I have lost my FGO account, and I was really pissed because I invested a lot of resources on my first SSR. It was Jeanne d'Arc if you are curious, and it's also pretty funny that a French servant happened to be my first SSR, but anyways. It's been 8 years since its initial release, and it seems they are so freaking adamant about not putting an account binding system to the game and double down on their shitty transfer code system. I don't really think they are unable to add it to the game. Other games released in 2015 managed to do it, so why FGO couldn't? At this point, I feel like they're just being so overly protective of their flawed system that they don't give a fuck anymore. And you know what made me even more mad? It's the fact that there is one FGO server with a proper account binding system. It's the most censored version of the game. It's the freaking Chinese server. Their players are able to link their FGO account to their Bilibili account to keep their saves, so why can't we have it? Another thing that could be very useful is material synthesis. It's a pretty common feature in most recent gacha games, since there is actual different tiers of materials. I can get behind the idea of not being able to include it, and our equivalent could be Daily Ticket Exchange or pure Prism Shop, because FGO Materials doesn't have any evolution trees. But we have a few exceptions, like class materials. There is different tiers of it, and allowing players to get their hands on gold class materials without the atrocious drop rate is actually helpful. They could flesh it out a little bit more and include cross-class exchange, or maybe enable mana Prism exchange for pure Prism or rare Prism. Another thing that I feel like every single FGO player wants is an auto battle system. Before you tell me there is FGA that emulates an auto battle, I'm aware of it, but it's not available for iOS, and that's not the auto battle I want for the game. You see, there is two types of auto battle, a true one and a fake one. The true auto battle, as I call it, is seen in games like King of Fighter All-Star, Azure Lane, or Girls Frontline, for example. The game takes over automatically and does the heavy lifting. Then we have the fake auto battle, and in this one it's just a button you can press and you set up a certain number of runs you can do depending on your current AP or energy, and then you get the rewards instantly. But regardless of the type of auto battle, there's one thing that doesn't change, it's the unlocking condition. In most games with auto battle, you unlock them once you complete 3 objectives. Most of the time it's clear, deathless, and specific condition depending on the game. In Path to Nowhere, for example, it's a clear, deathless, and no structured damage. Out of those 2 auto battles, I'd like to see the second one for 2 main reasons. The first one is because most of the assets are already in the game, and the second one is there is already an equivalent of those 3 conditions. Instead of having those 3 things to do, it's 3 clears, since we already have to clear it 3 times to get the same for it. So might as well give us auto battle as well, so we can farm more efficiently. Enough nerding out about auto battles. And let me ask you one question. Did you know that League of Legends players have different websites tracking down how many days have passed since their champion got a skin? I am aware of such websites, and I think we should do the same for servants animation updates. When I think about it, the latest animation update released in Japan was in June 2022 for Summer BB. But there is some character released in the first year of the game that didn't have any animation update. Matahari, for example, she is one of the first assassins you can get in the game, and she still has caster balls. It's been something around 3,120 days. It wouldn't be really problematic if she was the only one to be stuck in 2015, however there is many other servants in the game stuck in the exact same situation. There is other cases where some servants already had animation updates, but it still feels old. One of such servants suffering from this situation happens to be one of the most popular characters in the game, Jeanne d'Arc Alter. I know I concluded with the Jalter incident, but that's pretty much all the ideas I had in store. If you are here since the beginning, thank you. You're an absolute legend, and I appreciate you sticking around for so long. There's just one more thing I'd like to do before going back to my cave, and it's to highlight some ideas from the community.
2,000 years later.
There were people wanting to add a roguelike mode in the game, and I vibe a lot with that idea. I find it really interesting, and it could give players the possibility to test characters they don't own, see how they play, how they feel, and it could be the push needed to summon for those servants. All the other gameplay features I've seen so far were New Game Plus, Boss Battle, Tower, and Grail Front, which I've already covered. But then there is the quality of life features, and you guys came up prepared. The first thing I've seen was a better PD system, and honestly, I didn't even think about it because I have accepted a long time ago that PD doesn't exist, and what we currently have is just an illusion. However, it's undeniable to say how shitty the PD system is. If you want to hit pity, you have to spend 900 sane quartz. The thing is, you only get 167 sane quartz with the most expensive pack. In Europe, it's about 95 euros for basically 5 summons. If you have to go through all those quartz, you will have to buy 5 packs of 5 summons, which totals to 475 euros. Honestly, I don't really know the equivalent for other gacha games since I'm broke as hell, but it does sound like an outrageous amount. Honestly, it's about twice the rent I used to pay when I was in my uni dorm, so yeah, it's pretty expensive. All of those players wanting a better PD system, regardless of what changes they want to see, either lowering the PD system or carrying it from a banner to another, why not settle for both? It might be greedy, but the game has one of the worst drop rates in the market, so I feel like it's only fair. I'm going to be honest, I have only counted the number of people wanting to add to the game, and I don't really know if they are memeing, if they want to keep the eroge roots of the franchise, or if they want a better bond system, or something substantial to attest the commitment to a character. But I think I will include them with the hundreds of players wanting a better bond system. I can't really come up with any ideas at all, but I have read something brilliant to dynamize the current bond system. It was, Bond CE should be permanent for servants once you reach Bond 10 with them. I don't really know if that person meant it to turn those effects into passive, but I got it that way, and I feel like it's really interesting. I have seen a lot of people wanting to see Live 2D added to the game. It didn't cross my mind because I'm too used to the current menu, and sometimes I hallucinate them doing slide animations, but I can get behind having Live 2D in the game. I mean, it's already used for sprite animations and NPs, so having it in the game feels fair. Also, the game has a lot of popular character, and giving them Live 2D in my room or main menu wouldn't be too much to ask. Then I have seen a combo of 3 different features I would love to see because of how useful they are. One of them was 100 rolls on FP Gacha, and that's one of the most reasonable requests I've ever seen in the census, and I'm all for it. It would be so much simpler if we had this button for exclusive low rarity servants and stockpile their coins. It's also a better way to burn all the amount of FP long-term players have. I have seen people asking for a 10 roll when we have enough ticket and keep the same advantages as a standard one. It's like that in every other gacha games except this one, which doesn't make any sense. Then there is some people wanting more inventory space. It's simple, effective, and honestly, everyone would be thrilled to have this no matter what happens. And I feel like you're just here to vibe and have a good time. The last feature I have seen was Universal Servant Coin, which could be very helpful. You have to spend a lot of coin on a monthly basis, and If you want to 120 a servant and unlock all their pen, you have to spend 660 coins plus 5 grels. It is fairly easy for 5-star servants, but if you do that with 1-star servants, it could be such a pain in the ass because you only get 2 coins per copies. Having this will help those players to get to their goal faster and more easily. That's it for this video. I have been yapping for I don't know how long, but thank you. Thanks again, Klidge. I cannot wait for this year's census to happen, and I'm only asking you guys to participate in the future because it's always fun to see what players want, and it's also really fun to try and snipe what your friends' answers are in the census. Anyways, that's it for today. Take care. I'll see you in the next one. Bye.